Hello everyone and welcome back. This video we're going to be diving into the create product aspect of a dashboard that we are building out for our POS system. So ideally you want to keep everything isolated to your own application. There is a create product in the catalog section within the Stripe payment system. So you can go to the Stripe website, you can create product, give a name, a description, an image, upload anything you want. And then you could make it a recurring or a one-off payment, and then you could give an amount, tax included, bill period, all of that. And then whenever you go to create the product, it's going to look something like this test product that I created. Here you go. There are some specific things to note on. For example, adding metadata to your product can add functionality within your application. That's a little bit more advanced, but we'll cover that in our more advanced section in the tutorial that follows this one. But for us, this is our basic Dash application that has all the products. If I go over to the create product page, we're going to see a lot of the same information. Product name, description, image URL. We are not using an upload. Just to keep things really simple, we're just going to give a link. So you have to already have an upload location, and then you just drop in the link, and then it will associate it with the item. You can select a one-time payment or a recurring subscription, and you can bill it daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. The price amount, anything that you want, and then you can jump into a few different prices of currency type, depending on what your location is. A nickname for the price, and then metadata. If we wanted to add that, we can do that here. Okay, so to actually build all this out, it's a fair bit of work, but we'll just kind of dive into the code here. So I'm in the create product section. As you can see, the imports that I'm using is I'm using the Stripe payment system, which I imported from Dash. I'm using HTML, dcc, input, output, state, callback, and register page. From Dash exceptions, I'm using the per event update, and then I'm just importing Dash by itself as well. So the first thing that you need to do whenever you're creating a page within a Dash application is to basically define where the page is located. So you register the page, you give it a path URL, which is going to match this right up here, so that they can get to that specific page whenever they go to that URL. And then you could give it a name, which will reflect within the tab. With that, I'm using main. The reason why I'm using main is to define the Stripe API key, where I'm passing through main.stripe. And if you recall, that's going to be located within the app file. The reason why I do this is this allows me to only put in the secret key one time, and then I can use it in any page that I want by just importing the main and then looking at the location. So main.stripe is going to be that variable that I equated to right here, which is associated with that configuration of the Stripe API key. So with that, we need a layout. A lot of these are going to look very familiar if you know HTML. But HTML H2, that's going to be the title. The create new product is going to reflect right here. Create message. This is going to be a success or error message that is going to be displayed whenever you click the button to create the product, so that the user knows if it was successfully created or not. And this is going to be dynamically rendered through a callback, and we'll dive into that further in a minute. So we need to create the actual form. I wrap everything in a div to kind of keep it, contained. Within that, I have a product information section. Product information is going to be the title. That's going to be this right here. And then we have product name. Product name is going to be the label. Right below it, we have the input, and that's going to be this right here. So with that, I give that an ID of product name. I give it a little bit of style, and you can kind of look into that, but it's just CSS. And then I also give the div a little bit of a margin bottom to just kind of make it look a little bit nicer. So then I section everything off within this div. So each section it's basically layered like one after the other. Product information title, the first form option, the description is going to follow that. The image URL is going to follow that. The only difference within these is I'm using dcc.Input for the name. DCC text area is a little bit larger, and it's better for like a description box. As you can see in the actual rendering, this is a larger box, which looks better for a description and trying to create information within that. Below that, I use a dcc.Input, which is just going to be the link, and then I give some price information, which is its own section. So within the price information, we have a DCC radio item, which is going to be these little dots right here, which allows you to select in between them. And whenever you select them, as you can see, it will hide or show the billing interval, which is a different form. So it's a little bit dynamic in how it renders other forms depending on what you select, which is used often when building dashboards. But with that, the form has a ID, and then you have options, and the options consist of a list with dictionaries, which have a label and a value. So the value is going to be thrown into the callback. The label is what is shown to the user, and that's how that works. And then you pass through an initial value that you want rendered for the selection. So one-time payment, whenever I load up in the screen, you'll see that this will jump back to one-time payment. There you go. So with that, recurring intervals, this is going to be the dynamic rendered if it's going to be recurring on a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly basis. So if you're trying to create a subscription and consistent, revenue stream off of, maybe some SaaS software that you're building out, this is going to be really useful in you charging the user every single month and knowing how all that works. I'm using the dcc.Dropdown with these options. It's similar with the options being a list, dictionaries within each individual value that could be selected, and then we give an initial value of monthly. So this is going to be the initial div ID, which is going to be wrapped in with this. So whenever we go to hit that callback, dependent on the selection of the radio item, basically what you're saying is that if it's a recurring subscription, then you want to show this div based on this ID. If not, then the style of this div will be display none, which just means that it's there, but it's not being rendered on the screen, so it won't be associated with any selection. So with that, we have price amount. This is where we have the ability to create this drop down, which gives us different currency options. We have this input of the price that we get to put in. We could set a min, a step, and a placeholder for all of that. And this is required. So within the dcc.Input, we could pass through a required field to make sure that some of these forms need to be filled out to actually create an item or a product within the page. So with that, there's a follow-up of a small text, which is just going to say that there's a minimum of 50 cents, which could also be reflected in the price amount, where I have a minimum of 50 cents. So I can't launch an item that is 49 cents or anything less than 50. So for the price nickname, that's an optional form, which is just going to be a dcc.Input. The name is going to be price nickname, and then I give it a placeholder. And with that, we have the metadata section. So for the metadata section, it's basically the same thing that we've seen. We have a div wrapping in all the information. We have a little label saying that this is the metadata. We have a dcc.Input, another dcc.Input. So that's how the metadata is going to be used to be created. And then we follow up all the forms with another div, which has an HTML button. N clicks means how many times has the button been clicked. So on initial render, you want that to be 0 so that you could say it's never been clicked. That's what 0 represents. And then whenever somebody clicks the button, this will change to 1, and then the callback knows to do something. So with that, give it a little bit of style, make it look nice, and yeah. So I added HR to separate this last section, which is going to show the recently created products. So whenever we go about creating a product, we render it back on screen to show that it was successfully created. And then at the top, if you remember in the create message, This is going to also give an indication that the product was successfully created or not. So with that, toggle interval display, this is a callback to show or hide the recurring interval based on price type. So we could just go into the input, which is price type. I could look for it. It's going to be right up here, which is that radio item, which I mentioned has the dynamic form render. So basically what it's saying is look for this component within that callback. Then it's saying that if the value is recurring, so I'll go back up, and recurring is going to be this value right here. So if it's a subscription, then I want you to basically show it. You can see that display is set to block, so it will actually show below that radio form. And then if it is not a recurring payment that is selected, then it's going to hide that form, so you can't actually use it. So that's a quick, easy callback, which is useful. So this is going to be the callback to handle the product creation. As you can see here, there's a lot going on. But basically, what you need to look at is that an output is a section within the callback which is going to receive something after the whole callback is ran. Okay? An input is the trigger. So the trigger is going to be the create product button. When that is triggered, then this callback is actually going to run. The state is basically retrieving items from IDs within your actual layout. So you can see like product name, we're retrieving that with a state and we're just looking for the value. And these are all going through the same thing. So product image, get the value, and then that gets passed in. So whenever you're actually creating this callback, you can look at this function. You need to define what do you want to update, which is going to be all these. What's going to be the trigger, and then what values from other different objects are you going to want to use in the callback, okay? So the end clicks is going to be the first one because it starts here with the input. Then it works its way down through state. And within this function, I'm just passing through this information directly within here. So you can see how they line up. The input, end clicks, I just pass it through. Name is going to be a good representation for this state. Product description, description. Image, image. Price type, price type. Interval, recurring interval. So as you can see, it all just kind of lines up, and it's just looking at all of this right here. And then you could put in whatever name that you want, but try to create something that is associated with it that makes sense. And then you could use it within the actual function and within the callback. So with that, basically the first check I need to do is, hey, was the button clicked? So if end clicks equals 0, do nothing. That's what the prevent update does. So it's looking for that end clicks when the button is clicked. As you recall, it initially renders at 0, but when it is clicked, this will change to 1, and then it will move down to the next section. So then I have a validate required field. So I'm just seeing if there is a name and if there's an amount. And those are the two required fields to actually create a product. So if there is not a name or there is not an amount, then I create this error message, and then I return all this, which will get returned to these outputs right here. So basically what I'm saying is do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing. The only thing that I want it to do is to give a error message of, hey, you did not fill out one of the required fields, which is going to be sent to that create message because that's the first output. That's the first output. So you can kind of see how all this relates, where all of these returns are going to follow the same order as your returns and your outputs up here. So with that, I set up this try and this except for catch-all purposes, but basically I convert the amount to cents. I prepare the product data through a dictionary, so I create this dictionary, I give it a name, and then basically what I'm doing is I'm going through the different fields and the forms, and then I'm just saying, hey, add a description. If there's a description, it gets added to the product data. Add an image. If there is an image in the form, then put that in the product data. And it just kind of goes through. So then I have this create product and stripe where I run this, which is going to be stripe.product create, and then I'm just passing through the product data. So then I am preparing to set the product, other attributes, which is going to be the product ID, unit price, currency. All of this is going to be prepared for the price data within the product. So these are two separate calls. You have this product, which is going to be used to create the product. Then you need to create the price for the product whenever you're doing this programmatically. So then I also throw in a nickname. If there's a nickname, that's going to go into the price data. Recurring product, what that is going to go into the price data. And then within this command, I'm actually creating the price for the product. And with that, if everything is successful, I create this success message, which is just going to be a variable, which is going to consist of an HTML div with what I want to show in that message section. So with that, recent products, I'm going to fetch recent products, which is a function that I created right below that callback, and I'll show that in a minute. But basically what I'm doing is I'm just running that, which is going to be passed into the second output, which renders on the screen to show the recent products that were created. So with that, I have my success message, grab the recent products and show it in that section. And then I just basically provide these empty strings. The reason why I do that is because it's going to go back to the outputs and it's going to erase any values that were within them. So as you can see, the product name, after you put in a product name, once you click the create product button, then it's going to empty out the form and it's only going to change it to a blank string. So you can go about creating a new product. So it's just about, cleaning up all the values that you had in those forms and then starting fresh so that you can create your next product. This is where the exception comes in, where I'm using stripe error as E, and then I'm passing through that error within this div, which is going to be showing within the error message, which gets returned in that section, and then nothing else happens for all the outputs. And then same thing for this exception. This is any other case that isn't associated with the Stripe payment system, and if something went wrong, then this is a catch-all. So with that, the fetch products, this is going to be used to fetch and display recently created products. I basically go into products, as you can see here, create that variable, stripe.products list limited 5. So that's just pulling the most recent 5. And then if there is no product data, then just return that there is no products found, so there's something to be shown. So with that, we have cards. Each product is going to be shown as a card. So I basically loop through products right here and the data within it. And then I'm basically grabbing the prices and then price info if it's not set. And then if price data, and then get the data of the price, the amount, which is like how much of the product is going to be sold, price, unit amount, the currency type, and then using .upper, just uppercases, it makes it look a little bit nicer. And then if it's a recurring product, then basically I pass through the amount and then the interval, and then the pricing info is going to equal the amount and the currency. So if it's $17, it's going to round. That's what the 0.2f does. It's going to make sure that it looks like money, where if I did 3, then it will be 3 decimal places from the dot. But with cents, it only goes up to 2. So you need 2f, which is going to say like you can have $2.47, and that's going to be acceptable. But if you threw in $2.47.8, then it would round it. That's what this 0.2f does. Then it's just going to throw in the currency. It's going to create the card based on all this information, where I'm passing through the product name, passing through the product description, or is a catch-all for the product description. So if there is no description for the product, then it's going to provide this as a default, which is no description. And then price info is going to be related to the price info that we just set. So this price info is going to basically, because it's located below this top one, if there is no price associated with it, it'll do this. But because there should be a price associated with it, this will override this, and then that will appear right here. So with that, I'm giving the product ID underneath it within a small text, just to kind of help us as developers know what the product ID is of the product that we're creating, because that's useful. And then lastly, because this is all located in this for loop, I am appending the card that was created from this right here into a blank list, which is located right here. And then that is going to be returned right here. And then I have an exception for a catch-all. If something goes wrong, then instead of returning the cards, it will return the error so that we know what the issue was. So lastly, we have this load recent products, which is going to basically just fetch from this input of create product button. So whenever that button is clicked, then this function will be ran, and it will output to the recent products, which is that section in the layout where this is supposed to render. Because it's going to be used 2 times, it's used right there. And if we scroll up a little bit more, we can see that recent products is right here as well. Whenever you are using multiple IDs within separate outputs, then you need to use this allow duplicate, because typically it's only supposed to be 1 output per ID. But because this one is used 2 times, you need to make sure that at the second one, you need to allow duplicate equals true. And that will allow this specific output to be used in this callback and to also be used in this callback. So it could be used in both callbacks. So with that, prevent initial call also needs to be provided in a specific callback that has an output of an ID that is used more than twice, or more than 1 time. So with that, load recent products and clicks. If the button is clicked, then basically, hey, run that function that we just went over and then show those cards. If not, do nothing. So with that, I know it is a lot to kind of go over, but in the end, you'll see that you can just create a new product with this page. And for someone who is creating a business-to-business application, you typically don't want them jumping in between multiple applications. You don't need them to go into their Stripe dashboard to create products. Rather, just go to the site or the application that you're creating for them, and then just use this specific page to create products. And you can build it out and focus it more towards their needs through actually creating forms that are useful for them. As you can add metadata to this, and then the metadata can do more things for the product as the application that you're building out could read that metadata within products that you create, and then you can run different if cases depending on what that metadata says. So I know that this is a complex topic, but I'm trying to break it down as easy and as bite-sized as possible. We are going to turn this into so much more, and a later tutorial that follows this one, which dives into much more complexity, but this is the bare bones to actually creating a Dash application page that allows you to create products. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.